13 years, three films, one man who never raised his voice, never threw a punch, and never once asked anyone to think he was special. Just a father, a guy who loves movies, and somehow he outsmarted everyone who ever came after him. Today, Georgekutty's story continues. Drishyam 3 is in theaters right now. And in this video, completely spoiler free, I want to give you my most genuine personal take on this film. So let's get into it. Behind this trilogy, once again, is writer-director Jeethu Joseph, produced by Anthony Perumbavoor. Mohanlal is back as George Kutty alongside Meena, Ansiba, Esther, and almost every familiar faces from part 1 and 2. There are also a few new characters added into the story this time around. Now, my completely straightforward reaction. The first half is slow, like really slow. I was sitting there the whole time thinking, okay, now something is going to happen. Now it will pick up. And that feeling just kept going for a long time. But at the same time, because it's Jitu Joseph film, you sit with it. There's this trust you have with his films. You tell yourself, okay, he's building towards something. He's setting things up. Just be patient. And to his credit, he does deliver, but only really in the last 20 to 30 minutes. That's where the connections start coming together, the reveals start landing, and the film finally find its footing. And even near the very end, near the credits, it keeps surprising you. But just to be clear, this is not fast-paced thriller. The tension is more mental, more layered. It's not loud or action-heavy at all. So if you are going in expecting that kind of energy throughout, manage those expectations. And yes, there are twists. Jithu Joseph always delivers on that. Not just one or two, there are multiple turns and reveals right throughout the final moments. Now, my personal ranking of the trilogy, and this hasn't changed from how I felt going in. Drishyam 1, still the untouchable classic, the benchmark, nothing touches it. Drishyam 2, surprisingly good, like really well pulled off. When it ended, I genuinely felt relieved, like the legacy of the first film had been protected. That's a hard thing to do. Drishyam 3, it's decent. It's watchable, fair closure to the franchise, but personally, it's not as emotionally satisfying as the first two. And I think huge part of that is expectations, not the film's fault entirely. Jitu Joseph himself said before release that he wasn't sure about the big box office numbers, but he was confident it would be a decent film. And look, after watching it, that feels like a very accurate thing to say. Now, there's something I want to talk about that goes beyond just reviewing the film itself. For me, movies are connected to memories, to specific phases of life. Watching Drishyam 3 brought back the memory of seeing part 1 in theaters when it first released. Back then, this film grew purely on word of mouth. Tickets were nearly impossible to get, especially in smaller towns. Online booking wasn't reliable everywhere. So people were literally going to the theater counter just to check if seats were available. The whole culture, that excitement around the film, that's memory from a completely different era now. And then Drishyam 2 takes me back to the COVID period, watching it at home on Amazon Prime during lockdown, when OTT releases had become these massive events by themselves and going to cinema hall felt like a distant memory. That's also now attached to a very specific phase of life. So walking into part 3 and seeing George Kutty and his family again, the nostalgia was genuinely one of the best part of the experience. Okay, performances. And I'll be straight here. Mohanlal as Josh Kutty, look, there's nothing left to prove. He plays this character effortlessly now. Even in the quietest, most understated moments, you just get it. You understand exactly what's going on inside George Kutty's head without him saying a word. Esther genuinely impressed me this time. Her character brought warmth, lighter emotional moments, and real screen presence. Among the family members, she stood out the most for me in this film. Now, Ansiba, Anju's character, is literally central to this entire franchise. The whole story started because of her. But I will say it straight. Across all three films, I personally feel she's been the weakest performer. And even here in part 3, Esther, who has comparatively less weight in the story, is outperforming her. That's just my personal take. Meena, she's always dependable. and the family chemistry on screen still feels natural, but her role here felt a bit underwhelming compared to what she had in the first two films. Not bad, just noticeably lesser. Now, Shanti Mayadevi as Advocate Renuka. And this is actually something really interesting about her. She's not just an actress playing a lawyer, she's a real practicing advocate at the Kerala High Court with over 10 years of actual courtroom experience. And you can feel that authenticity on screen. She was there in Drishyam 2 as well, and she's back here in part 3. And in certain portions of this film, her presence was stronger than I expected. She carries real weight in how the story moves forward. And I think that comes directly from the fact that she actually knows this world from the inside. Murli Gopi and Siddiq. These are actors with so much experience that even simple scenes just work. Naturally, no issues there. Asha Sharath personally didn't have the same impact she had in the earlier films, and there's specific moment near the end involving her character that just didn't fully land for me. And there's one returning character from the earlier films, someone I personally really liked and was actually thinking about during Drishyam 2 as well. They are back here, but their arc didn't close the way I was hoping it would. One last thing, and this is something only Jitu Joseph fans will probably appreciate. His film have a very specific visual identity, something you feel more than you consciously notice. There's a simple drawn shot in Drishyam 3, nothing massive on paper, but it was one of those moments where I thought, yeah, that's a Jitu Joseph frame. And something I have always noticed specifically in Jitu Joseph films, the way he shoots vehicles while people are inside them or driving. You know, those shots, camera inside the car or right behind it, with the actor visible at the wheel. In his earlier films, these shots were quite obviously VFX or green screen. You could tell immediately. It never quite looked convincing. But over the films, that either got better or he found a different approach to it. I'm not entirely sure which, but it's something I have constantly noticed across his work. And those kinds of shots are there in Drishyam 3 as well. Small thing, but once you've seen enough of his films, you start spotting these little patterns. And truthfully, that's kind of what the whole film feels like. Not a groundbreaking finale like part 1, not as satisfying as part 2, but a decent, nostalgic return to Georgekutty's world with those familiar emotions, familiar tensions, and that unmistakable Jitu Joseph atmosphere we have all been following for years. Should you watch it? Look, go in with low expectations, keep them in check, and you might actually enjoy it more than you think. This is a trilogy many of us have grown up with emotionally. So go watch it before the spoilers take over your social media timeline. So, where does it land for me overall? I would give Drishyam 3 a 6.5 out of 10. A decent film, just not the ending this franchise deserved. And if you enjoyed this kind of movie review where someone who genuinely loves good cinema just shares their real thoughts on it, please do like this video and subscribe to the channel. And if you know someone who is a fan of great films, someone who appreciates this kind of conversation around movies, share this with them. That means a lot and really help this channel reach more people who love cinema the same way we do. See you in the next one.